We're now on our 9th day out of New Zealand and fully adjusted to the 10-hour time difference, the climate, the food, and sussed out the differences between a Jew, an Arab Israeli, and an Arab Palestinian, and so on. So now it was time to ease into a relaxed 2-day escorted tour of Upper Israel. On our first day, we went from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, across the plains of Megiddo to Nazareth, then to Cana where Jesus turned water into wine, and then Capernaum, Safed, and up to Hashagrim for the night. The next day it was on to the Barnias, the Golan Heights, Mount Bentel, Yardnit, and then finally Tel Aviv, where we based ourselves for our next part of our holiday. On our way out from the hotel in Jaffa Street in Jerusalem, we got a good view of the $70 million suspension bridge under construction as part of Jerusalem's yet-to-be finished mass transit rail system. The scenery along the Mediterranean coast up to Nazareth is a bit like what it is in New Zealand. We passed by Netanya, a small typical town. Megiddo has been the site of numerous battles throughout history, and the Bible book of Revelation mentions Har-Mageddon, or Mountain of Megiddo, as the final battleground between God and the kings of the earth. We drove through the plains of Megiddo, but didn't stop in the town. Again, we took an Egged tour, and there was just 9 of us, all the same age, on this luxury minibus. The Basilica of the Annunciation, which dominates Nazareth's downtown, is actually 2 churches built in 1966 over the remains of older structures which date back to 356 CE. The basilica's huge bronze doors depict the life of Jesus. The entry level is built on the site believed to be Mary's house, where the Archangel Gabriel appeared to Mary to herald the birth of Jesus. The caves, granaries and wells in the lower level were used by early dwellers of Nazareth. Later, Christians turned the site into a worship place. The Arab town of Cana is just outside of Nazareth, and the main road to Capernaum runs through there. There's a church dedicated to this first water into wine miracle of Jesus, but it's generally acknowledged that the exact location of the miracle isn't known. Today, Nazareth is a town of 66,000 and is populated mainly by Palestinian Arabs. Here's what the scenery looks like as we leave Nazareth for Tagba. At Tagba, there is a church called the Church of the Multiplication. Here, a modern church has been built on the site of the 4th and 5th century churches, which are dedicated to Jesus' miracle of the multiplication of 5 loaves and 2 fishes. It's generally acknowledged that this is probably not the actual location of the miracle itself for several reasons. The Sea of Galilee is about quarter the size of Lake Taupo, but supports about 35 species of fish. Capernaum is just 2 kilometres from Tabgha and is also located on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, or Lake Tiberias. The ruins of the synagogue contain Corinthian columns that date back to the 2nd century. Capernaum was inhabited from about 150 BCE to 750 AD, and today are just ruins. This is where, of course, Jesus healed Simon's mother-in-law and the Roman centurion's servant, and it's also the birthplace of Peter. Here there are ruins of a 5th century octagonal church believed to be on the site of Peter's original house. It's a place I always wanted to go to one day and put my feet in the waters of the Sea of Galilee. This is the Sea of Galilee. It's really windy here. I've always wanted to come here, and now I'm here. And now it was time for some lunch, fish and chips and coffee, Israeli style. The fish, of course, being caught fresh from the Sea of Galilee. After lunch, we started making our way to Safed. Much of Jesus' ministry occurred on the shores of Lake Galilee, and in those days there was a continuous ribbon of settlements and villages around the lake, and plenty of trade, fishing and ferrying by boat. These days there are heaps of farms around the area, but as we head further up into the mountains, the scenery changes to a more rocky look. At 800 metres above sea level, Safed is the highest city in Galilee. Legend has it that Safed was founded by a son of Noah after the Great Flood. Anyway, heaps of past blah 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 here, and today it's a 99% Jewish population of 32,000. In the 1950s, Safed was established as Israel's art capital.
We had to be specially dressed by the locals to enter their synagogue.
After visiting the local synagogue and wandering around the old ruins, we headed up to Har Grishim, where we stayed the night in a kibbutz. Israel has about 250 kibbutzim, or communal settlements, whose members divide work and profits with each other. They began as a utopian community, a combination of socialism and Zionism, but in the last decade, most kibbutzim have been privatized and no longer practice communal living. A member of a kibbutz is called, of course, a kibbutznik. Part of the religious practice of Jews is to engage in ritual washing prior to eating, and for that purpose, bathrooms are located right at the restaurant door. Most Jewish hotels have the same arrangement. Enclosed rooms are provided though for doing number ones and twos. Kosher Turkish coffee at this kibbutz is all part of the service, as well as these very pretty ladies on reception.
Okay.
40 years ago I heard of the term kibbutz and wondered what it was, and now I've stayed in one. The next morning we headed off to Herman Springs, just 10 kilometres from our kibbutz. The Herman Springs, or Banias and Golan Heights vicinity, is on the border of Lebanon and Syria, and the scars of ongoing war are evident everywhere. Barbed wire fences, heavily mined fields, bunkers, tanks, sentry posts and so on. This is a dangerous area, and if you stray from your vehicle you could very well be a military target. Herman Stream is at the base of Mount Herman and is one of 4 main feeders to the Jordan River. In 19 BCE, a temple was built here during the reign of Herod the Great in honour of the Roman Emperor Augustus. Later, in 3 BCE, in the time of Alexander the Great, the Greeks built the temple of Pan, the god of forests and shepherds. Thus came the name Panias, in Arabic pronounced Banias. Our next stop was Mount Bentel, about 20 kilometres south, where our guide promised we could visit Kofi Annan. Kofi Annan in Hebrew means coffee cloud and is the name of the restaurant at the very top of Mount Bentel. In the Yom Kippur War of 1973, Mount Bentel was the site of one of the largest tank battles in history, 1,500 Syrian tanks versus 160 Israeli tanks, in which the Israelis won. As a result, the long stretch of valley between Mount Bentel and Mount Hermon became known as the Valley of Tears. Mount Hermon itself is mentioned many times in the Bible in both the Hebrew and Greek scriptures. At the base of Mount Hermon, Jesus revealed in Matthew chapter 16 his purpose to build his church and to go to Jerusalem to die and be resurrected. Mount Hermon is also a possible site for the Transfiguration, as it fits the account as described in the Bible. After a 5-minute drive, we stopped at the Mezquite Nature Reserve or Peace Lookout. From here we could look across the Sea of Galilee to Tiberias, and also Mount Tabor, which is mentioned in the Bible book of Joshua as the border of 3 tribes, Zebulun, Issachar and Naphtali. Deborah the prophetess also referred to this mountain. After winding down from the Golan Heights, we come to Yardeni, the only Israeli registered baptismal site for Christians. It's located at the exit of the Sea of Galilee, on the banks of the Jordan River. About 500,000 visitors come here every year, many to get baptized. Although this isn't the exact spot where Jesus was baptized, it would have been near here, but where the river runs in the country of Jordan, according to archaeologists.
Awesome experience, and I know God is with us.
I hope it does some good for me.
And finally, you don't have to spend $25,000 to come here. You can go to www.yardeni.com and buy holy water online, and they take MasterCard. Bet Shan is another UNESCO World Heritage Site and is one of the oldest cities of the ancient. It dates back to 1600 BCE, when it was under Egyptian rule. It was here that the Philistine lords of Bet Shan displayed the bodies of King Saul and his 2 sons on the city walls. The city was later taken by King David and became an administrative centre under King Solomon. Lillian is standing on a mosaic floor in what was a shop in a Roman Cardo 1,600 years ago, and it's still like brand new. There's absolutely tons of stuff to see here, from these main street columns to the numerous Roman bathhouses. This particular one, built in 400 CE, was in use for 200 years. Bet Shan was one of the 10 cities of the Decapolis, the only one located in Israel. In its heyday, the population was 40,000, and it became one of the most important cities in northern Israel. Have you ever wondered what a Roman public toilet looked like? Conveniently located next to the theatre and bathhouse, of course. Toilet paper not supplied, and no provision for washing hands either. I was keen to try one out, but unfortunately it was against the park rules.